Yeah. I still have a few questions.
Please do.
What do you think is a good metaphor for the voice dialogue and the psychology of selves? To explain it to people, what would be like a metaphor of these different selves? What do you think?
Well, I've used a couple of them over the years. One of them is they're like an orchestra made. They're like all the instruments in an orchestra, or they're all the colors, ranging from the ones we can't see with our own eyes, that we can't perceive with the eyes we're born with, from the infrared to the ultraviolet or whatever, or the X-rays or the gamma rays. But that basically it's like the rainbow being,
Okay, yeah.
or like a prism
A
where
prism, yeah, with all the
so many facets, it's still the same prism.
yeah.
Facet picks up something totally different. And voice dialogue is kind of tracking each color back to its purest form, say, so that you could say, oh yeah, that's that one, and that's that one, and that's that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like the archetypal level of it, the pure essence of it, of each, like for instance, the pusher can use the energy of Mars, the
Yeah.
warrior, or the pleaser would use the energy of Aphrodite.
Yes.
So Aphrodite would be the pure form, and that can be sometimes show up like a pleaser, maybe a little bit distorted. And
Or like a controller,
sorry,
like a dominant,
the controller.
like a controller, or not the classical controller, but like a power voice that dominates and that controls other people through the Aphrodite energy.
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So all these pure forms can be used accordingly in different manners for power and as part of the bonding patterns, all that work that you did with the bonding patterns. So then we need the aware ego process that to help to bring these energies forward in a positive way or in a neutral way.
Yes.
Yeah.
First, to recognize them. Oh, I heard my voice. That was sounding pretty much like a judgmental, controlling mother to me.
Yeah.
On the other side, who's on the other side? Well, maybe my rebellious child, or my frightened child, or
Yeah. Yeah.
sensitive child, or no child at all, just the part of me that's loving. Or
And that process, of course, it gets accelerated when you are with a facilitator, when you facilitate one another.
facilitator, working with voice dialogue just cuts to the heart of so much. Working with each self and giving each self an opportunity to express itself completely, because you can do that in a number of ways, but it's nothing like working with a facilitator. Working with a voice dialogue facilitator, or even somebody else, sometimes you say, listen, I hear a voice in me. Could you just pretend, I'm going to move over to this chair, and could you just pretend I'm a whole person and talk to me and give her a chance to talk? because it's my angry voice. Hal called his Mars voice. Just let Mars get a chance to talk, and Mars gets a chance to talk.
Yeah, this is how I explained it to a friend of mine, and I didn't want to be her therapist, so I said, just I will show you. You talk to parts of me, and there was a fun way to introduce the work.
Yes, yes, and then you could talk to my nice girl, and you could talk to my naughty girl, or you could talk to my good girl, and you could talk to my rebel. And
Yeah. Hmm.
it it, it so often when we're trying to figure things out all by ourselves, it's a self that's trying to figure them out, and it can't see what's its opposite, and it'll be stopped by other selves. Well, you can't say that, or you can't think that, or you should even get rid of that picture in your mind.
So, what is for you like a real important quality for a therapist, or let's say a facilitator?
Ah, being willing to stay in process. So
Same process oneself, you mean?
and when you find yourself trying to deal with somebody and having trouble, or trying to really be with somebody and experiencing some kind of difficulty, you know, look at yourself. You could just sort of stop what you're doing and then go back and handle something else. But say, there's something going on in me right now. And then dealing with one's own process and seeing, does this person have a disowned self of mine as a primary self? What am I judging in them?
To have that kind of reflection process.
Exactly. You have that reflection. You realize you're part of the process. We
Yeah.
have marvelous, I think, MP3 on the transference that
Yeah.
deal that deals with the bonding patterns therapists do get into, and either we can work with them or not.
Hmm. Yeah, that's such another beautiful, important work that you did. This work with relationships with couples, the bonding patterns model, and yeah, what I particularly like also is that you bring in the disowned selves. Huh?
They're
A lot of
so
therapies, it's about communicating the needs, the vulnerability, but then somehow it doesn't always work when when a disowned selves operating.
yes. When you're dealing with one, with either a disowned self or even an unconscious self,
Undeveloped part
uh,
or unconscious part, yeah.
but particularly a disowned self. Um, I I can remember when I was very young and starting out as a therapist, and I was working in a psychiatric clinic, and I had a patient come who really taught me a lot. She was an amazing experience.
Hmm.
She was, oh, probably about 40-ish, and a very artistic type who had led her own life. She didn't had, yeah, had dealt with her own life and led it and was very creative. And I had my PhD. I was a doctor. I was all of these good things, and I was about 26 years old, and and she must have been about 40. And it was so sweet. She looked at me, and she was totally present, and she was not looking down at me. She was just meeting me.
Hmm.
And she looks at me and she said, something like, I'm going to have to work with somebody else because it's not because you're not really smart and or whatever it is, but I need somebody older who I
Okay.
talk to. And she just made this beautiful, deep connection. And she was so present and she was so in herself.
Hmm.
And she was that, so she honored me,
Hmm.
and I still can sort of feel her. I can sort of feel that experience.
Hmm.
Gift,
Yeah.
a real gift. I didn't feel bad. I just felt as though I had been seen and I was gifted.
Hmm.
It's so interesting, this this difference between who is giving the message and what the message is.
Yeah.
And she gave me a message that easily um, could have turned me off of being a therapist the rest of my life, you know, and gifting me,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I could hear it, and I said, you know what, you're right.
So that
And
you could say it sounds like an essence meeting, huh?
so it was like an essence meeting.
Not the therapist and the patient or the client,
I
not the judgmental mother and the guilty daughter or whatever. It just felt like very
felt
creative. Hmm.
it so beautiful. But that gets around to these systems that that elevate the mind. So if now we're in connection to each other,
Hmm.
we're asking questions which are wonderful, but we're in connection. We've been in connection for 140 years at least,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
um, it's wonderful to talk to you, to talk with you. But these these systems that don't have an aware ego, that doesn't allow for that more essence level connection rather than a surface one, usually are identified with the mind. And there was one years ago, oh, I had the name of it on the tip of my tongue, but the internal family systems is one of them now, where there's a bunch of questions you want to ask, and then you get the answers too, so you find out about that self, and
Hmm.
that's different from having the person really become the self. It's different from you allowing them to become the self in whatever form it takes. It may change into something you didn't expect, and then you try to get it back to the self you were looking for.
Exactly. So it can be, that's what I like so much about the work that when I did a session recently with a colleague and something comes out that I didn't expect, something totally different by going into the energy, by becoming it. So I have the energy talk directly rather than in an introverted way, me asking questions to the selves in myself. So to come outward, that's something really um, that we do a lot in the voice dialogue. Huh? Just
Yes, and it's wonderful, and it keeps it alive and it keeps it interesting. And I must
of course, this is more difficult to learn. I mean, one needs to learn, the facilitator needs to recognize the self. They need to know the selves in themselves. They need to tune in energetically. So you cannot learn that from a book. One needs to have sessions for a while, ongoing practice.
Mhm. And be open to sessions as you get older. I mean, as we continue. I know Hal and I did what we would call mini sessions with each other. I'd say I'm
Mhm.
self, and, I noticed, and and you know, he talked to mine or I talked to his, and just for a couple of minutes even, and it snaps.
Mhm.
If we could really do that, it snaps us out of it and goes someplace really interesting sometime.
Yeah, I try to do that regularly. And how is it for you? I mean, do you have people to talk to your voices, or do you do it now all by yourself?
I um I do a fair amount of it by myself. I get feedback in my dreams. I
Okay.
can see, I, oh my God, I had a dream last week. I was trying to learn Italian, and
Ah,
and and
bello.
oh yes, I thought that would be very easy. In the dream, I thought it'd be very easy. It's close to French and to Spanish, and I studied both of them, and then was pretty good. And so that's not going to be a problem. And the dream devolved from there to being totally lost because, that was a self in me that uh, thinks she's 40 years old or 20 or something.
And can learn a lesson easily. Yeah.
Needs to be special, needs to be special.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
And so why shouldn't I learn Italian? I shouldn't learn Italian because I can hardly remember the English words sometimes.
So that self took over in the dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
And boy, by the time I woke up, I was glad it was only a dream. I couldn't recognize the street signs.
Yeah. So for you in the dreams, your process continues, and you can reflect on it, and then
Yes,
like doing a session with someone else. Yeah.
yes, yeah. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of that, but I also, I share a lot, and you know, and we'll discuss. I may not move over um, and have a self talk, but a self will be talking, and I'll talk about that a fact. I have a little group of women that we've
I
got
see.
for many many years, like
That's,
25.
oh, oh, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, is there anything else you want to say? I think we covered already so much, huh?
Mhm.
I was just wondering, the name voice dialogue, if you were let's say, start over again, would you still call it voice dialogue, or how about that?
Gee, that no, I don't know because dialogue with the voices or maybe or speaking to selves
Mm.
or dialoguing. It's a back and forth, and the facilitator is really part of it. Um, I don't. Um, that Hal came with that name because he had heard somebody else use it, I think, who was doing some chair work, and then he'd been playing around with that. Um, and I think he said, because my memory isn't, I won't swear by it, um, but I think he said that he had asked that person, whoever it was, um, if he could use the term, and the guy said, yeah.
Mm,
So
okay.
I that's apocryphal. It's what I remember,
Yeah.
and I can't check in with him right now. I guess I
I,
could.
I know that's unfortunate. No, because we now use also, I mean, I use sometimes the psychology of selves, huh? Like you also use that
Well, the voice dialogue is the method, and the psychology of selves, I think, is a
framework.
perfect for the whole system.
Yes.
Psychology of selves includes the work of relationship, it includes the aware ego process, it includes the bonding patterns. I might, I'm, no, I still like the bonding patterns as a word. I hate the diagram I stuck myself with. But I would definitely redo that.
Which diagram? Sorry, that.
Two infinity symbols,
Yes.
and I would I would do an arrow
Okay.
between. I would do an arrow between the parent and child in each person, and then a circle with at the edges where the parent child and the child parent
Did
come
you
to.
ever draw that one?
Excuse me. I would draw that one.
Oh,
I
you
would.
haven't done it yet. You didn't.
You know what? I could, couldn't I?
Yeah, why not? Innovation.
Yeah, I'm allowed. I
Sure.
mean, much work, but that's really much more what the picture is.
Well, it's so interesting because now I've been asked to do another course in relationship work, to give a course to coaches about relationship work. So I'm also now looking at these models again, and so anything you come up with, well, very welcome.
Oh, well, you do that. Doesn't it feel more right?
Well, I don't totally get a picture yet because I'm. If you can write, if you were to draw it, that would be more clear for me.
I will do that because I like that much better. And that's where I feel I'm hampered by what we did. But the voice style and the psychology of selves, I think is really good because that's what it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
Psychology of selves, and the selves themselves are, often have, you know, archetypal roots or archetypal cores that you can get to.
Yes, I like it too, the psychology of selves, that everything comes together. There's the connection with the Jungian work, with the archetypes, the connection
Yeah.
with the energetic work, the dreams.
Well, we always had the difference on it. Let me just write down that diagram because um, and bonding pattern is still good because parent child bonding is natural. It's sort of imprinted, and it's archetypal, and so there's that. And but we always did make the difference between voice dialogue as a method, and it
Yes.
can be by anybody. And the people who have picked it up, neuro-linguistic programming, that was the one,
Hmm. Hmm.
what, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yes, NLP and early. Yeah.
And that was very, you put your mind in charge of all of these unruly selves, and that's different because that's really elevating your mind from your.
Yes, yes, that's quite a mental approach. Yeah.
it's, it's elevating your protector controller.
Yes, and it's also they try to often get a solution, whereas in dialogue you allow process time. I like that statement. Holding the tension of opposites. Me,
Yeah,
at the end of a session, you may still not have an answer to what to do, go left or right, and to hang out there with the polarity, sweating the opposites. I think that Hal would say, until there comes a moment that you feel, okay, this really belongs to me. This is what I'm going to do from the aware ego.
absolutely.
So it
Absolutely.
involves a
What gives it,
period of not knowing also.
yeah. And that's what gives the chance for this psychic fingerprint or the sensing, because it's not figuring out, it's a sensing what belongs and what doesn't.
I like it. So it's a full circle now again. The essence, the psychic fingerprint, what belongs to me. Yeah. Hmm.
And that's what the gift is, because um, because it is a process and it is movement, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you very much.
Oh, you are so well. This has been such a pleasure, Roberto. Yes, it's been it's been truly wonderful, and we've had a wonderful journey together so far. And I'm going to be around a while.
Okay, and we keep in touch.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.